Welcome to Calling All Growers. I'm your host, Liz Grow, and I'm so excited to be here with you tonight and our live show. Now, as you know, growers are the superstars of the cannabis industry, and there's nothing more valuable than to learn from the best. So tonight, I have a very special guest for you. She's been one of my grow crushes for a minute now, and she's about to be one of yours too. Genevieve Newton is a multi-award-winning cannabis cultivator, the head grower and director of cultivation at Stuart Farms, an aquaponic living soil farm in New Brunswick, Canada. Genevieve, welcome to Calling All Growers.
Good evening. I'm so glad to be here. I am amped. I'm excited to talk about growing. I've been on lots of different podcasts, but for different things. So growing is my favorite subject.
Right.
And you gave me a great introduction, so I don't know what to add besides that I am a rare breed out here in Canada, not just because I'm a woman head grower, but also because I'm a new woman head grower. So like most of the broskies out here have been growing since birth, and I've been growing since like 2015. And so it came on me fast. I came into it hot and have exceeded my own expectations in the past 8 years of growing. And so here we are. I'm a medical patient, a medical grower, and also a professional cultivator in the legal cannabis industry here in Canada.
Wow, God, just to be able to say those words out loud with such like pride. I mean, it must just feel so good. You know, there's nothing stopping you from providing this medicine to everyone in Canada who has, who can legally obtain it.
Yeah, that's really been my goal. I started out in legacy market is what we call it, I guess, the black market. I was growing illegally, and then just decided to jump into the legal cannabis industry only 3 years ago. So starting basically from the bottom all the way up. And I gave myself roughly 5 years as a goal. I'm like hard into goals and manifesting what I want, action, all of that. Yes. And so I gave myself 5 years to work through basically my way up from grunt to head grower, so top of my field, which they call here in Canada the master grower. So I am the master grower here at Stuart Farms. I don't choose to call myself that because I don't feel like anyone is a master at anything, especially me. And so I prefer what I am called, which is head grower and director of cultivation.
I love that. I love that, just that humble attitude. And, I hear that a lot with growers that I get to talk to on this show. First and foremost, it's about that pursuit of learning and sharing knowledge and helping to, I mean, pun always intended, grow the industry and get more people growing their own,
Especially women.
Yes, especially women. I was lucky enough to have you on my Feminized podcast. And sure, I wanted to hear about growing, but, I wanted to hear more about you and your life and what it was like, taking that leap. And so I just wanted to have a little shameless plug here for that episode on the Feminized podcast, episode lucky number 13.
That's
We'll be
favorite podcasts I've ever done. I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but the fact that it's also it just serendipitously came out number 13, which happens to be my lucky life number and a number I used to use for sports. So just like 3 is my favorite number. It's just really cool. And that is one of the first times in a long time where I shared my full story on how I got growing. So that's a good place to go. I think I have it in my bios too, because I love it so much.
Yeah. Oh my God, that means so much. That means so much. We'll have to cut some more clips because the conversation was so great. I mean, there were just so many gems in there.
Mm-hmm.
But tonight we get to talk all about growing. That's the whole point of this show, is to inspire more growers, and growers really at every level of the game, including those growers who are still like, still a little hesitant to dive in. So I guess where I'd like to start tonight is, what advice would you have for a girlfriend who was maybe, thinking about growing, but hesitant about it. What advice would you have her, and how would you help to, get her on her way?
Yes, I would definitely want to foster that energy for sure. I actually do all the time because people reach out to me on Instagram quite a bit. So aside from the industry and what I do in legal cannabis, I do a lot of mentoring behind the scenes, which is actually where I got started, sort of in this new part of my life, like getting into cannabis and growing cannabis, and then loving it so much and realizing there wasn't a lot of information online. When I started in 2015, there wasn't growweedeasy.com. There wasn't like, there
Right.
wasn't anything. Like, it's unreal to even think that only a few short years ago, people were so secretive about how they grew and what they did. And so I want
Yeah.
to share that like for free. Like, like, here, this is what I did. It might not be the best way to do things. So I just started making tutorials and I started teaching people and mentoring people. So that is probably one of the most common questions I get asked is, how do I get started? Like, I love seeing what you're doing and I want to do that. And so I want to share that with them. And so I do. And so I redirect people to different tutorials that I've done or different websites that I think are going to help them. I gauge people's passion, I guess, and to see like how interested they actually are before I
Hmm.
start putting all my energy into a person. I want to make sure that they're in it. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, basically get started with genetics. Genetics is number one. So I would get my friend to start looking through and researching, like, as far as like what she's looking for medicine.
Hmm.
Start looking at, I'd give her the websites to start with, and I would do that for anyone,
So
at least
so
for
like
me.
specifically, like what kind of medicine are you looking to grow? Type of a
Yeah,
conversation, right?
yeah.
I love that.
CBD, like what kind of effects are you looking? Is it for you? Is it for your dad? Is it for your daughter? Is it for your dog? Like, people always have a different reason as to why they want to get started. Maybe they just really like growing plants and they want to just, I have so many people that just really love growing plants and they don't care to be the best or even have the medicine at the end. Some
Right.
people want to grow like it like a house plant or grow it in its vegetative cycle because it
Yes.
is so beautiful. I love growing vegetative cycle plants, mothers,
I,
basically.
yeah.
I feel like I am the mother of mothers, and like, and so
So
I am like in this industry to tell people to treat their mothers right. And so I'm
yes.
setting an example for
I
other LPs and other micro facilities to not neglect their plants in veg, because that was something that I had just seen across the board. I'm not saying who or
mm,
what, but in this industry, it's just something that gets neglected. So I decided to put extra energy into mom, starting a few facilities back, and yeah, like, it's just really important. But the genetics are the number one thing that people should start with. Good, solid, reliable genetics, and you got to pay money for that.
yeah. Yeah. What are you seeing right now? Like what would your friends spend on good quality genetics? I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of medicine you're looking for, but just say she wanted to grow, a giggly cultivar.
Yeah,
Okay.
I usually direct people to autoflowers first off, just to try it out. They're generally cheaper to buy. I know some really good breeders, and so I would say like $10 a seed. I know it sounds expensive, but I mean,
Hmm.
sometimes that's the price that you pay, and it just gets pricier. So you kind of pay
Right.
for,
$10
yeah,
a seed, you can get pretty good. You can get a good level
yeah,
genetics.
you get
That's not
10
too low.
for like $150. And these places that have been around for a long time are really good at shipping it, like when it has to be discreet and illegal, like, so.
Okay. Very cool. Okay, I love that advice. I love that starting advice. It's think about the medicine that you're growing and why you're just not what maybe not you don't have to think that deeply
Yeah,
into it,
why?
okay? Maybe that's just me.
That's where you
But
start
yeah,
journaling.
think about it.
I would get I would get my girlfriend, and I've given a lot of my girlfriends that have wanted to start growing like a journal. Like, women, as women especially, we love journals. Like, who doesn't have a large collection of journals or notebooks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you need a grow journal, especially when you're just starting. I have a stack of them where I started. So you write out your plans, you start looking online, you get advice from someone like me to get you going, and then you start doing the work and
I love
research
that.
how you want to plant it, how you want to grow it, what do you want to use, how much money you have,
I
and
love
just
this.
planning it out. You can spend 6 months. It's like addicting almost just to like plan out your grow.
Oh my God. So yeah, and that's kind of how I feel because I've been, lucky enough to have conversations with growers on a regular basis. And so it's like I have a fantasy grow in my head.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? So you just got to get it down on paper and like write out your list while you save your money to buy the things. And I know how to be super thrifty in home growing and in work growing. And so people can link up with me if they need cheap ideas or DIY ideas. Like at home, I started growing in a 2x2 closet in my craft room, like with like Mylar emergency like silver stuff in there. I'm lucky I didn't burn my place down, honestly.
Many a crafter has, almost burned down the house with a hot glue gun.
Yes,
So you know
that's
what,
true.
Genevieve, what you're doing,
Thank
what you were
you.
doing is God's work.
Yeah, sometimes I feel that way, like God or higher power, like higher purpose kind of stuff, like we of course could always talk for many hours, but when I start really deep thinking, like I've just been thriving so much since I started that, like, how can you not think that that's a higher purpose for you? And I've struggled in my life. Like, let me tell you, I've struggled in my life, and mostly because of my own decisions and stuff. But like, I was struggling with finding joy and happiness. I was approaching 40 and like doing social work. Like, you can go and look at my whole story on your other podcast, but just really unhappy in life and just not wanting to settle for that mundane sort of domesticated Monday to Friday. I was burnt out. And so this like reinvigorated me as a woman and as a person, as a human, and like it saved my life. It's like led me on this path where I'm thriving in life now and I'm glowing and I'm throwing it around to everyone, like I want them to glow. And
Yes.
so it's like it is higher purpose type feeling stuff. I just know it. And I don't care how crazy I sound, but I just know it. I am meant to walk this path and grow weed as a medicine for the people and teach them how to do it themselves.
Oh my God. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad we're here. Um, wow. So tell me about what your day-to-day looks like at Stewart Farms. I mean, you're the freaking head of cultivation there.
Mhm.
It can't be boring. And
No.
I think it's such a beautiful thing how you are so deeply connected to the plant, but you also have a very, very big, important job. So it's not like, you're just kind of floating by. You got a very important job.
Yeah. So day to day it changes around here. So I run or I'm the head grower here at Stuart Farms, which is we have 5 grow rooms right now. We're in our phase 1. We are aquaponics, like you said. So we have a separate fish room with 2 500-gallon fish tanks that we feed through manual labor. And we can talk about aquaponics on a different show if you want ever. But so I have
Definitely.
about total 2,000 square feet of sort of grow space here. And then in Nova Scotia, which is the province next to me, and I travel to quite a bit because we have 3 micro cultivation facilities that we're partnered with out there. And so
Mm,
like a partnership or a collaboration where I direct them to grow the weed like how we do it in our living soil, with our living soil partners, and with my direction. So like I'm their head grower, so they have access to me. And so I run all the scheduling for the 4 farms, and we're collecting more too. So we're trying to help, I guess, like these micro cultivation facilities get off the ground and process their weed and sell their weed. So they come into a partnership with us and they get not just processing, but sales, marketing,
yeah,
growing. Like, so it's a pretty cool, different sort of way of doing things in this industry. And I love that.
that's so
Um,
awesome.
so kind of like that. So here, when I'm here at the farm, like I travel quite a bit too, because I also do, I guess, marketing and media, which you've seen online too.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
so I did a trip out to BC. I get asked to speak at events, and so I was recently at Grow Up in Niagara, or sorry, I was at Niagara too, but Victoria was the most recent one. I was a featured speaker with Ed Rosenthal and Jim Belushi. Like, so crazy, man. Like, I've been on this trip of wildness. Um, so like the day to day is like, it's so hard to explain. If I'm here at the farm though, I suit up in my PPE. I go into the back, I check in with my guys. Usually they're already here and they're already watering and getting into things by then. Everyone knows what to do. It's just, there's just me and two guides. I sometimes get to pull in a few other people, and that's on our like live plant cultivation team. And then I have a post-harvest team with some really strong women leaders that I'm mentoring as well. And I have some crossover too. So I'm teaching. I don't know how much you know about in facilities, but I don't know the states either that well. But there's not a lot of crossover. It's like east side, west side kind of thing, like processing versus cultivation, right? And
So
cultivation.
it's a lot of, so it's pretty separate. I mean, is it a vertically integrated model in Canada then?
When we phase up, we'll go into vertical, but right now we're just doing, they're just tables on, we have
Got it.
small, yeah, 320 square feet of canopy is what we have in our grow space, in our flower rooms. So they're small. So I do a lot of cross training. So, cause I want my post-harvest to know what to do in cultivation and vice versa. And so just sort of, I guess, checking in with both sides, seeing what needs to be done that day, checking with the operations manager, seeing like what their priorities are, because sometimes my priority becomes that too. So, or my guys need to go over there just to get stuff out the door. I go in and I check the plant. So each room I'll go in and we check our environmentals. Like I can walk in and know if the room's good or not. And every day it's good. It feels so good to be here. And I have not had a day where I walk in and the plants are like awful, or I'm upset, or I'm yelling at Ross, or like there's just never a day like that. Like I always am pleased when I go in. It's just very wonderful.
Oh, God,
Then
what
we
an
get through
amazing
the day.
feeling.
So it's just like if we have big tasks planned, I'm half the labor. And so like recently it was just Ross and I, we did a full room transplant. So we take the little guys and put them into the 4-gallon pots of living soil, which is like it's physically laborious here.
Oh yeah.
Soil is heavy. So it just depends on what the plants are doing that day and what needs to be done. And then in between that, I'll be on Zoom calls with my boss and other like people that we could be partnering with, and just always making connections or going to events, or then, once a week speaking with my head growers at the facilities in Nova Scotia, making sure everything's on track. Like it's a lot to be responsible for.
Yeah. I mean,
But I love it.
Did you see yourself in a position like this, like 3 years ago?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So
You know what? I'm
yeah.
an older woman, and like, okay, so yes, 3 years ago before I started, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna rise the ranks. And I've had a lot of different careers in my life, and I always start at the bottom and rise to the top, and just like, because I work hard, and that's what shows when you go into a place is work ethic. At the end of the day, most of the time, it's your work ethic.
Right.
And yeah, so, but probably the first year, like just doing all the grunt stuff that it did, and the toxicness of the industry, and like just really getting a culture shock, I guess. I wanted to quit a lot. Like that first year, I wanted to quit.
Playing from Super Note.
Sorry, 1 second. We've got a robot intruder.
I was
Okay, we're
wondering.
good.
Robots.
Sorry, that was strange. No worries. But well, I mean, it sounds like a dream come true. And here's what's cool about this show is because it's a grow show, we get to talk about whatever we want when it comes to cultivation. So I kind of do want you to dig into aquaponics, Can you do that? Because a lot of people have heard the term and seen YouTube videos and stuff, and it just looks so cool. But talk, tell me about aquaponics. Tell us about what it is and why
Yeah.
anyone might consider growing like that.
So aquaponics is relatively new to me, actually. So I've just been learning it this past year, and because I came to this farm, and so here, what we do a form of passive aquaponics, and a lot of what we're doing is R&D. So one of the biggest, my favorite thing about grow talk or talking about growing or in the industry or anything is R&D. So science, research and development,
Mhm.
pheno hunting, anything to do with that. I grew up, that was one of my panels was I spoke on pheno hunting. It's just I dive right in. Kevin Jodrey is my mentor. He's affiliated with Stuart Farms.
Yes.
That's what I'm learning from. I'm taking the Ganjier course. I'm learning from all of those people.
Oh, so
It's very, very cool. But aquaponics, that was one of the reasons I wanted to come over here, because I wanted to learn. So that's part of what keeps me fueled, and that would be why I probably like R&D so much, is just the constant learning and changing.
Yeah.
As you get more information, because it's such a new drug, or it's newly legal, and so
Yeah.
they can research on it. So we've been doing quite a bit of R&D with the aquaponics, and so that's how I'm learning. I have a scientist assigned to my team. We have 3 scientists on staff, and so
That's
she
dope.
assigned different projects. So right now we're working on basically kind of identifying anything unique that we're seeing that the waste of the fish poop is doing to the plants versus just using regular water within our living soil system. So let me explain, I guess, how we do aquaponics.
Okay,
So
yes, please. I'm
in
taking
Canada,
notes.
yeah, in Canada, there's only 3 facilities, legal facilities. I'm sure there's not many illegal ones, but maybe legal facilities that grow weed with an aquaponic system. And so we're one of those, and we're one of the smaller ones. And being at the beginning of the R&D stuff, we have a fish room separate from the grow rooms. And so that a lot of that is microbial reasons, like we don't want any cross contamination. Although we are introducing it to the room, having the fish and the plants in the same room is like a whole other level of risk. So we have 2 5-gallon tanks, and we have 140 tilapia in each tank. Habitat uses Soho coal, or Soho coal. They use salmon, and in BC, and coho salmon, is that coho salmon? And koi is what Aqualitas uses, and they're just over in Halifax. And so we use tilapia. It's a black Nile tilapia. It's a very special tilapia. And they are too big. They're 2 years old now, so they're too big to be commercially sold. So when we have to harvest them, Tanner, my boss, the CEO, he donates the fish to the community. Anyone really that wants, like families around town, or the food bank, whatever. He's done events with the tilapia. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. I love that. God. So is it like, I don't know, it's just so interesting that each facility is using different fish.
Yeah,
To me, I never would have even thought that would make a difference in the end product, but I mean,
and it depends what they're using the fish for. Like sustainability is a big reason why people use it, because then you're using way less water. Because in a full aquaponic system, you would have like a full recirculating system, and so you're not wasting any water at all. We aren't either, because we're pouring it in and we're not doing any runoff, so it is staying in the plant. But it's just it's not the definition of aquaponics. So when I go in there, the fish poop in the tank, the poop goes through a filter, a bead filter, and it separates the solid waste and does some processing to the poop. The poop goes into a reservoir. I go get the poop waste. It's just mostly, you can see videos on Stewart Farms. I've kind of shown how we do it and how it works. And so I agitate the reservoir, pump out the water into our 55-gallon tanks, and then I spin and wheel that down the cultivation hallway and water the plants that are being watered. So our monocropping, our stuff that we're doing for the rec market, most of that's not being done with aquaponics. It's being done with organic living soil. The aquaponics sometimes, but it's usually because of a science project that we're doing. And then the flower that we harvest at the end is like bonus buds.
That is so freaking cool. So I have to ask, before we go to break, what does it smell like?
The fish poop?
I mean, the end result. Like, and listen, I've been around farms. I'm from Texas. Sometimes poop doesn't smell bad. I'm just curious.
It's not, I get it all over me, but not on purpose, but like, it's just like, it splashes around. It's not the worst thing. It's like, it smells like fish, like when you're going in there. Yeah. And really what we're after is we're not feeding anything to the plants except for microbes. So we're just like reactivating the soil with microbial activity. The nutrient analysis that we've gotten done really doesn't add much to the soil at all. The soil already contains what it needs. And so we're just like, it's like microbial mass, you know, like just kind of producing our own microbes. We're a microbe farm.
I love that. I love that. I want to dive more into that after the break, but unfortunately we do have to pause the conversation for some messages from our sponsors. But when you come back, Miss Nudie Grows herself, Genevieve Newton, head of cultivation for Stuart Farms in New Brunswick, Canada, will be back here on Calling All Growers in 2 minutes. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll see you soon.
It stands for Regulation Crowdfunding. And what it is, the SEC put together this plan after the Great Recession back in 2008, 2009, where we were bailing out Wall Street, you know, the big bailouts, too big to fail. So we're bailing out huge banks like Bank of America, we're bailing out Ford Motor Company, et cetera, while the little guys on Main Street are closing their doors. Oh, well. And there was so much backlash that initially under the Obama administration, they created this Reg CF plan. And it was so popular and it worked so well that under Trump, they doubled down on it and expanded the program. And what it does is it allows the average retail investor like you and me to be able to invest in pre-IPO companies, basically buy shares of companies.
Hey, you want to grow your own plants? Check out Style Lighting's Grow Kit. It has everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out stylelighting.shop for more information.
With a Reg CF offering that we're doing, we have basically pretty much gone through all the steps you need to do when you're doing an IPO. Now, we're not sold on the public markets, which it's still considered private equity, but you basically buy shares we use the Start Engine platform, and now anybody can go and buy shares. When Facebook first launched, the banks were buying shares at $5 and $10. It IPO'd at 20. I put in a buy offer as just a random Joe retail customer. I put in a buy order the night before. Computers execute instantaneously, right? I think my buy went in at like $34 by computer execution by the time it opened, while the banks got to buy it all at $5 and $10. Well, this allows you and me to be able to buy into these pre-IPO companies at favorable rates.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Calling All Growers. I'm your host, Liz Grow, and tonight I'm here with Genevieve Newton, the head of cultivation and director at Stuart Farms, which is an aquaponic and living soil farm in New Brunswick, Canada. Welcome back, Genevieve.
Hello, glad to be back.
So we were just having a conversation about what is aquaponics and what does the fish byproduct smell like. So if you're just now joining us, you're gonna have to go back and listen to the first half of the show.
Yeah.
But I want to get into the awards that you've won, because you're a multi-award winning cultivator. You ain't no joke, girl.
Yes, I have not had any energy or time. I had to take a grow break, so I wasn't able to enter anything this year. Plus, it's very limited out here in Canada. I found out sort of about 2 cups after like that I needed to have stuff in. But yes, I am still the title holder for Hemp Fest Cup 2021 for highest CBD and top female grower.
I love that. That's incredible. What was that like to win that award?
It was pretty awesome because I had entered a few years in a row and I had won things, but like I kept setting a higher goal for myself and a higher goal. And so this year I wanted to enter so that I could win Judge's Choice, which is the top award, top. And they canceled it this year. And so the best part is like I didn't lose my titles, but I got to wait till next year. So
that stinks. Did they cancel it for just because of a personal reason, or was it some sort of governmental regulation thing gone wrong?
Well, like people are struggling out here, like agencies and stuff, I think, with finding money. And then also there's a lot of different events the dates are conflicting, and then finding spaces to hold these events is difficult. So if you have the same date, it's tough at the same place,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that situation is that there were 2 events going on and they had to just say, okay, this one's going to be better for the community, or I'm just speculating, honestly. I don't know, but I was a little disappointed, but that gives me till next year. Because I had just literally started my grow back up. I was leaving for 3 weeks. And so it wouldn't have been like my best work, where I'm there the whole time. And
right.
So now.
So, yeah. Do you have a grow now? Did you start it back up?
Yes. Like I moved last July for this job, end of July. I drove across country from the west side of Canada to the east side of Canada. I'm right on the coast now. Move to work here, and so I had to basically it was just my Jeep and a tiny U-Haul, and I had 2 pets that I had to bring with me, and my daughter drove out with me, so it was packed, and I couldn't bring any plants. I had to leave like 60 house plants that I adored. Actually I took one little cactus that fit in the back seat, and all my genetics, like I had a huge genetic library with probably 40 different strains of mothers some of them I had a few years. And so I seeded them all before I left. I did a breeding project in my tent in my bedroom, which is where I do my growing. And I had this really awesome pollen that I had collected from a pheno hunt I did a year ago a year before that. And so I seeded all the mothers and got the seeds, and so I just haven't grown any of them except for I started up in when did I start up? Like November, December again? And it was just like a mad dash to get all new genetics. I dropped like 70 different cultivars. It was insane. I was doing this at home while also being a crazy person at work. And it was too, I lost a bunch of this harvest to mold too, because of the humidity here. Like it's so different. Like the relearning of environmental, like growing at home here versus a 25% humidity in out west, it's just so different. So I'm growing outside here. It's a better climate out here for that. It's been a wild year for growing, but I'm growing in every single part of my life.
Oh my God.
At work, in Nova Scotia, like all the places.
Well, that's what makes you good, because you go deep, and that's important. So tell me, what cultivars are you growing at home? I'm always curious what the head grower is growing for themselves.
Yeah, that's always a good question, right? Not enough people ask that probably, but I go based on stuff that's my favorite. And so this run, I was really excited to try my own version of black cherry punch and slurricane from in-house genetics. Very expensive seeds, but very worth it. All the black cherries were like a little bit different and so cherry, so beautiful. The slurricane was like the one pheno that I had was like a very solid plant, like just dense and like dank,
Yes.
I grew a bunch of CBD from Purple Caper seeds. Me and Frank are good friends now. He's like a breeder that reached out to me last year and just liked my like free flow vibe or whatever, and like wanted to do a collab and like have me pheno hunt seeds. And so I did his cherry tonic web, which turned out really well. Luxor Durban bred, and these are strains he's bred to have more than just THC. So CBG, THCV, like they've all shown up on his analysis, his lab reports. So I'm gonna try and get some of them tested, or I've kept mothers and I'll rerun them. Just what else do I have in there? I have purple Afghan Kush. Like,
oh, classic.
White Queen. It's like a white widow. I love white widow.
I've heard of White Queen. What is the cross?
Because I've looked this up, because it's from Amsterdam marijuana seeds, and they're very tight-lipped about what they use for crosses. It's one of the best breeders. It is my favorite breeder, Amsterdam marijuana seeds. Worth the money. I've grown so many of their extreme strains, which is their like top level strains, and they're so good. And this White Queen is it's so good. Like it's one of the best ones for effect. So it's like it's the only weed that I get consistent euphoria from. So there's something that they're mixing in their White Widow. So it's like this weird White Widow. They have this crazy White Widow and they mix it with everything, and they have all these different strains. It's pretty cool.
Wow. Oh, I love that. I love that. I want to talk more about personal genetics as well, or the genetics that you're working with as a grower as well, more on this show. I don't think I asked that question enough, because yeah, man, it's almost like, do you find that you try to grow things that nobody's growing, or is it just based totally on how you're feeling about that cultivar?
Yeah, it's usually stuff that I've seen being grown that I'm fascinated with.
Okay.
Or like before when I said like for effect, or like I'll research the genetics and what parents, and based on maybe some of the knowledge, I've grown well over 300 different strains. So I can sometimes go online and I'll see, if something's crossed with like the White Widow that I was explaining, right? Like I know how it's supposed to grow. So if it's real White Widow, I got an idea of what I'm expecting, right? And so I would get something with that mix in it, and I would know I'd probably be okay, especially if you're getting it from the same breeder, right? So I'll stick to familiar breeders or ones that I know. One of the biggest things is stability, honestly, too. Like if I get seeds and get like Hermes, it happens, right? But if I'm getting genetics that are constantly Hermying, or, you know, I know when it's my fault and when it's genetics usually, and it takes a keen eye and lots of experience, but yeah, stability is a huge thing. So I want to work with breeders that I know have been in the business of
Right.
breeding, or have some sort of scientific background in breeding, plant breeding, or, you know, we're in the black market doing breeding for 20 years or whatever. So you know that these strains have been like perfected basically, because these guys, if you meet breeders, like they're perfection. They're very proud of their work, and they should be, a lot of them, you know, like and it's hard because there's so many of these basement breeders trying to float up and like removing like some of that like uniqueness from cannabis and what's really good, what's just shit, you know, like it's terrible.
Basement breeders, you know.
That's what I call it. If I ever start a company, a seed company, oh look, I'm spreading it now. Someone's gonna steal it.
Nice. But yeah, no, I definitely, we have this conversation a lot here on the show, you know, with breeders about, you know, threatening the stability of genetics, and you know, strains that shouldn't be fucked with, you know, and protecting genetics, classic genetics, so that, you know, we have them to enjoy year after year, and they're not just diluted, and we don't just end up with some random hybrid marijuana that we're all
Well,
smoking in 2040, you know.
speaking of genetics, like Stewart Farms genetics, that was another reason why I came over, was because he has over 500 different genetics in the seed bank, which is really big in here in Canada, especially. So in
Wow.
nursing is part of this game. Like we do sell genetics to some of the bigger places.
Oh wow.
The genetics that I get to work with were brought in from Kevin Jodrey. So I know these, and some of them are cuts, and so I know these genetics are the real deal. You know what I mean? Like I don't even worry about it. I am already planning my next pheno hunt, you know, because I can sit back and like know that everything on the seed list is fucking awesome. And I just gotta pick some, you know, among, like I went through this list, dude, like if you're a cannabis grower and you are like have no chill like me and love genetics, like I was like, oh, I love this one, I love this one, I love this one, I love this one, I've grown this, like it was just like yes, yes, yes. So now I've been able to pheno hunt some of that stuff, or stuff that I've wanted to grow and just haven't. I have so many seeds at home, but you know, it takes time to get through it all, and space, and I don't have that. So it's like an extra level of knowing stuff by being able to do it at work, or even me being able to do it at home. It's an extra level of knowing stuff for work. So it goes both ways.
Right, absolutely. I mean, the knowledge transfers. At the end of the day, you're just getting closer and more attuned to the plant, and what makes for a successful grow, right? And I just think that's so cool that you're immersed in that, and you can really trust the leadership, and those that are working around you at Stewart Farms, because that allows you to just play, you know. That's what
Yeah,
it sounds like.
pretty rare. At least in Canada, in the industry, it's like monocropping, money, 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 money. Like we need to make money, 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 money. Like there's not a lot of money in R&D, but we've been able to find ways to get science grants and, you know, things like that, where we can get some money coming in to use for these projects, because they are going to help science research on cannabis in Canada. We're working with different universities. Like we expect to be published probably in a couple of years.
Yes.
Like they're one of very few facilities leading research and development in cannabis, and it's just at the very beginning, baby stages. We've had, you know, a few different runs, but that's going to turn into so much more, you know. So I'm lucky.
Right.
Boss lets me play. Like most of the time you don't get to play, you just have to work.
Yeah, yeah, but you're playing, but
Anything
you're also
over
contributing.
high THC over and over and over and over. It's like monotonous.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. I mean, you still get to grow, but you know, growing the
Yeah.
same thing, and then growing, you know, with leadership, having a mindset of profit over, you know, people, and research, and contributing, you know, to the collective knowledge of, you know,
Yeah.
of it is like, that's just lame. At the end of the day, you are just going to another job. I mean, God bless people
Yes.
who growers who have to work in that environment, you know, they're doing their best, but
Well,
I
and
hate.
some people like it, all the routine, all the structure. It's like factory work too, a lot of it, but or just like
Yeah.
food and agriculture, right? It's just very regulated. And so it's like people think you're going into cannabis and you're gonna be a farmer. I'm a farmer. What I'm doing is farm work. But like honestly, it's not like that. Most places, unless you're a small facility, it's very sterile, very leader, run down, no communication. It's just the classic, yeah, you're just going to another job. It's industry versus culture. And I'm here because I want to try and find like that middle ground or that balance, because I understand the need for both. I do. But there needs to be a better balance of both.
Absolutely, absolutely. So sustainability is a huge deal in the industry. So could you say a little bit about how, or maybe what growers should be mindful of in order to continue that trend and increase their own levels of sustainability? And I'm really specifically home grow, but you know, at all grow levels.
Honestly, just from experience, the best thing that the biggest switch you can do is switching from hydroponics, growing in salt, to organics. It's the sustainability and I love hydroponics, and I still will grow hydroponically. And I try to be as sustainable as I can. But if you can make the switch or you don't care, that's the first way that you can do it, because it's more about the overuse of synthetic salt minerals. Eventually we're going to run out of that shit. You're not going to be able to buy it. So it's relying on something that you might not be able to have in the future. Plus, where does all that waste go, right? Like, so when I started thinking about that, I was like, I'm a little bit more careful, like with flushing and runoff events. Like I'm just careful about my waste, or I reuse it on my house plants. You can reuse the salt waste on, collect it for houseplants, or dilute it, do things that are recirculating. Another way is, I know in commercial, a big one is packaging. So I'll just mention that quickly. I think more facilities could do more on becoming more economical and biodegradable or compostable options. Like it's usually more expensive for the manufacturer, but in the end, like there's so much packaging, in the industry, and with the childproof this and the plastic, and like the recycling's not doing anything. Like we just need to be more. All of our packaging at Stewart Farms is, or most of it I should say, is biodegradable. There are still regulations where we can't always get away with it, but even down to like the bath bombs, because we have a whole topicals department, and the bath bombs, they're covered in this plastic, and it's not plastic, it's biodegradable wrap. Katrina was here, she can tell you all about it. We also, our doob tubes are biodegradable. They're made of hemp. Like, who doesn't want weed in hemp tubes? It's garbage, and it composts in 80 days. So our bath bomb boxes, which I have right here, like these are biodegradable boxes too. And I mean, we could put all this shit in plastic. It'd be way cheaper for Tanner, but he's like huge on this stuff. If you want to know about aquaponics and sustainability, you book Katrina and Tanner on a show.
Yeah, please come on. Come on. I would love to learn from them about aquaponics and sustainability. I mean,
like I've been introduced to these thoughts that I guess I really didn't think about before. And so everything I do, I try and think a little bit about sustainability. Everything I'm using at home now, like I've just harvested, and so all the pots, even the cocoa that I've used, I'm dumping that back into our main garden. Everything we do at Stewart Farms, all the living soil at the end, we can't reuse it, so we take it outside and we compost it, and then that will all get used. I use some of that in my living garden, like at home or whatever, like Tanner let me take some of that compost stuff. So we reuse everything as much as possible.
That's so awesome. I love hearing that. Do you find that you are in the minority in Canada being that sustainable, or are a lot of companies, brands following suit?
I don't think it's even a following suit thing. It is very rare. I don't see it a lot out there, but there are more environmentally friendly companies or people that are thinking about that more. So it is catching on.
Got it. So it's catching on, but I'm sure you guys are inspiring a lot of brands, and certainly inspiring a lot the consumers, who eventually, are enjoying your product. That makes a difference as a consumer to see that commitment to sustainability, right? When you look at your package and you know that it's made with hemp, right? Or it's compostable,
Yeah.
that's super important. So earlier we talked about grows, how important it is to plan your growing environment. And I love this piece of advice that you gave about starting a grow journal. I'm totally going to do that because I think that's the step that I need to like jump over the hump and try out some of these fancy genetics that some of my friends have shared with me in seed form. And I'm like, whoa, I'm not worthy of the seed. But anyway.
I bet you have seen. I can't wait to hear what you have, and I'll help you. I'm just throwing that out there right now. Personally,
yes. And so thank you. So when I say asking for a friend, we know who we're.
Yeah. Can I be your mentor?
Please.
I have very few mentees right now. I could take you on.
Oh my God, please. Yes, please. And we can start with growing for a house plant. Okay. Because that's all I have time. I'm a great house plant mom. So
yeah, that's a good place to start, is just to grow, to get the feeling of it. Like see the structure of it, see what it does when you do this to it and that to it. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yes. Okay. So growing environment, that what advice do you have? Or maybe not so much advice, but what should growers be considering when they're planning their grow environment, whether it's their first time or also when they scale up?
Okay, so first time, you should know, you should want to know, like, if you're going to grow it for, like, what you're saying, like a house plant, or if you want product at the end. If you want product at the end, you're going to have to be willing to invest at least $500 Canadian. So American, maybe a bit less.
Okay, I love it. I want to spend 500 loonies.
You get a tent. So I will always suggest to start with, when you're just beginning, you just need a 3x3x5. A lot of people get the 4x4 right away, and it's like a lot of tent, and so you need a bigger light. And like, if you're just gonna try it and you want to get some product at the end, and you want to know like if you can do it, and then you can invest more money into it. So you would get a 3x3x5 just from Amazon. Go on Amazon again, and you can get a cheap light on Amazon. Like any of those LEDs will work. That's around 150 bucks. Check the reviews. Or I'm sponsored by Grandmaster Level, which is the best light company in the United States. Honest to God, like I fangirled this guy from when he was working with HLG. I was following him hard just because he's been in the industry, like legacy guy for years, and like just knows his shit. No, just a smart guy. Now he's mentoring me and sponsoring me. So you can get a discount with me.
love that.
So yeah, people can link up to me if they wanna get good lights, honestly. But if you're just starting out and you really just want to know if you can do it, you can just go on Amazon and get a cheap light, but you're gonna get what you pay for, honestly.
Yeah. Well, there is a grow kit, like a kind of a first timers grow kit from TCP Lighting. I know, and that's gotten some pretty good reviews.
Yeah, reviews are your best friend, honestly, because there's so much. It's overwhelming the amount of product that now you can get.
Oh yeah, it really is. It really is. And a lot of lighting companies are getting into cannabis because it's a massive market, the home grow market. So you got to do your research and read those reviews. It's not always a bad thing, but the lighting companies that are succeeding are the ones that are really trying to understand the grower and the grower's needs, as opposed to just trying to repackaging a light.
Right. And that's Master Level, because he's a little guy, like a small company. So just start Yeah, it's the same kind
Love
of thing.
that. Love that. Love that. Love that. Love that. That's great advice.
And what medium you're going to use. So like an organic soil would work. Anything that's like kind of local, or you can get like premixed Fox Farms. I've heard of people using a lot, and you can get that on Amazon.
Wow, dude.
Stay away from ProMix unless you're going to want to buy food and learn how to do. I mean, you could, but like it's probably best to start off with something that's sort of just water only.
Yep.
And then, yeah, you just got to start researching, you know. I literally just led my bestie and work wife and neighbor through her very first grow.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did she grow?
I stuffed her. It was my tent, my lights. I went and set it up at her house. Like she got the red carpet of mentoring, I would say.
Wow.
I grew the veg stage, and then she did all the hard work with me though, like transplanted them over to her house. There were 25 different strains in her tent for her first grow. I know I'm insane, but I was like, I'll just be next door. You'll be fine. And I just let her through it. I'm like, the best way to do it is just to be as chaotic as possible at first, and we'll see what happens at the end. So she did awesome. We threw out a few. So I think I got culled down to 22 in a large tent, like a 7 by 7 by 7 feet tent. But yeah, I made sure environmentally things were good, like set up for her fans, you know, the exhaust, all of that. So she did the daily grunt labor of watering, which is a labor of love she learned. And then harvesting, I helped her with that. And then she's trimmed the whole thing. So she learned the labor of love for that. Now she's enjoying it and smoking it and sharing it. So it's been pretty awesome.
God, that sounds amazing. So, you know, you really are known for working with other growers. You're known in the industry as somebody you share knowledge. How many growers would you estimate that you've worked with?
Oh man, I don't even know, just in the industry and outside of the industry, just ongoing even. Like it's hard for me to let go of people too. Like I still have old cultivators getting in touch with me and reaching out for advice, and I'm still mentoring I don't even know, like 100 at least, at minimum.
Oh, I love that. Well, consider me 101 because I would love to be mentored by you. Absolutely. As I said, I've been a fan of your work for a very long time. I'm glad that you do what you do on Instagram. So, you know, I can peek into the life. That just seems like such a dream. And the love and passion that you have for cultivation just shines through in everything that you do. So, you know, we're just really lucky to have you on the show, Genevieve. Thank you for coming on.
Hi. Thank you guys. I've enjoyed this. This has been awesome. I was excited about this. Podcasts usually, like, you know, you commit to something and then you get to it and you're like, like,
yeah. Yeah.
Traveled all day and I was still like super pumped to hang out with you. So you're all good vibes, and I will come on all of your shows anytime.
Thank you, my sister. Thank you. How can people find you?
Right now, basically just Instagram. I took a bit of a reset break, and that's just for a few days because I'm constantly shadow banned. So I've learned that if you just stay out of Instagram and not post for a couple days, they re-algorithm you for a minute, and then, you know, I just needed a break. But yes, at Nudie Grows is my Instagram handle, and on there it's linked to Stuart Farms. And I also run that media with Katrina. And so you can find me over there, all over YouTube on various podcasts.
Awesome. Yes, you are. You are busy. You're so busy. And I love it. Again, it's just all about your passion. Like if you're not growing it, you're talking about it. So if you guys, episode for everyone watching, tap into Genevieve Newton, Miss Nudie Grows on Instagram, and just kind of follow her life. It'll be the pick me up that you need. Trust me. So thanks again, Genevieve, for being on the show. Calling All Growers is produced by Pro Cannabis Media and Grow House Media with generous support from our sponsors. We want to thank our sponsors, tell you that we love ya. and encourage everybody watching and listening to show our sponsors some love because we love doing what we're doing. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks on August the 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for our Calling All Growers hands-on workshop where you will learn techniques, tips, and tricks from the best in the game as always. Until then, I'm Liz Grow and I'm calling all growers. I'll see you next time.
It stands for regulation crowdfunding. And what it is, the SEC put together this plan after the Great Recession back in 2008, 2009, where we were bailing out Wall Street, the big bailouts, too big to fail. So we're bailing out huge banks like Bank of America, we're bailing out Ford Motor Company, et cetera, while the little guys on Main Street are closing their doors. Oh, well. And there was so much backlash that initially under the Obama administration, they created this Reg CF plan. And it was so popular and it worked so well that under Trump, they doubled down on it and expanded the program. And what it does is it allows the average retail investor like you and me to be able to invest in pre-IPO companies, basically buy shares of companies.
Hey, you want to grow your own plants? Check out Style Lighting's Grow Kit. It has everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out stylelighting.shop for more information.